Good afternoon. It's great to be here. It's actually, I hate to admit this, I've spent a lot of time at Redstone, but it's actually my first time in downtown Huntsville. And what a great place. What a great place to hold this symposium. As I talk to you this afternoon, you know, I truly believe that these are really quite significant critical times that require action, that require important dialogue about our enduring defense capabilities, and being a bit parochial, I would tell you about the Army. And so I appreciate the opportunity today to provide some thoughts and ideas. And I'm pleased of the opportunity we've had this week to really talk about some of the really key issues where we want to go in the Army. And General Sullivan mentioned the panels and how they've gone. And I would just say it's because we have an Army that understands where we want to go. I think that understanding has been born in 13 years of combat and fighting together and deploying together, understanding the challenges that we have, and really thinking about where we need to go. And I think this comradeship or brotherhood or whatever it is that's been established has enabled us to drive forward together as a team. No matter if it's at the general officer level or at the sergeant level or at the captain level, people understand because of the shared experiences we have, and as we now think about the future, where we have to go. But before I get started, I want to take a moment to extend my special thanks and sincere appreciation to General Sullivan for his enduring leadership and his lifelong commitment, not only as the 32nd Chief of Staff of the Army, but what he represents to all of us about continued service, an inspiration to us. Sir, you have set a great example for all of us about giving back, about the importance of service, and I just want to thank you for that. So thank you, sir, very much. I also want to recognize all our distinguished guests here, retired general officers, current serving general officers, our non-commissioned officers, other leaders from across the Army, industry leaders, those from educational institutions and think tanks, and all that are here today. Thank you so much for your commitment to our Army. You show your commitment by being here. And I appreciate that very much. And when you commit to our Army, it is important that about the support that you provide to our soldiers and our civilians and our institutions. I also want to challenge you that it's important that you continue the discussion regarding not only the importance of where we go as an Army in the future, but also regarding the importance of a strong national defense and the investment it takes in order to sustain a strong national defense in our nation today. Because today our nation is facing enormous challenges. I believe we're at a strategic inflection point. Our nation is confronting determined enemies across the globe who have the desire, the capabilities, and an increasing capacity to threaten not only our security, but the security of our allies. We continue to witness an increase in the velocity of instability that was unforeseen just a few years ago. Today, we are experiencing an array of diverse and complex threats through a combination of transnational extremism and the organizations associated with such, and the aggressive action of several nation-states. In the Middle East, we're seeing expansion of sectarian conflict, driving a level of instability we have not witnessed before. Extremist organizations are aligning with ISIL and attempting to proliferate themselves not only across the Middle East, but North Africa. This all while ISIL continues in attempts to establish a caliphate centered in Iraq and Syria. Iran's aggression across the Middle East is raising tensions in places such as Yemen, where order has fully collapsed, eliciting a renewed regional military response. Anarchy, extremism, and terrorism are running rampant in Libya and other parts of North and Central Africa. In Europe, continued Russian aggression and its intervention in Ukraine is challenging the status quo, as well as the resolve of the European Union and NATO. Across the Pacific, China's military modernization efforts alarm our allies and challenge our regional interests, while North Korean belligerence continues. And we also face every day a continued and ever-evolving threat directly against our homeland. The unfortunate part of this is as we face these challenges that I just quickly reviewed, we continue to divest of our military capability and capacity, and therefore our risk continues to grow. We have significantly reduced our ground capacity, and as many of you know, we've already taken out 80,000 soldiers out of our active army. We've already reorganized and reduced by 13 brigade combat teams. We're in the process of eliminating 3 complete aviation brigades out of the active component. We have slashed our investments in modernization by 25%. We have purged our much-needed infantry fighting vehicle modernization and scout helicopter developmental programs. And the unrelenting budget impasse has compelled us to degrade our readiness to historical low levels. It's incumbent on all of us to understand that further reductions simply will put us into a place we simply cannot go. Even today, we only have 33% of our brigades ready, when really our sustain rate should be somewhere closer to 70%. We are only generating enough readiness for immediate consumption. We are unable to generate residual readiness to respond to unknown contingencies or to reinforce ongoing operations. And under our current budget, Army readiness will at best flatline over the next 3 to 4 years. And it will cause us to continue to reduce our capabilities in the active component, National Guard, and U.S. Army Reserve. How do these compromises we've made to modernization and readiness, combined with our reductions in our force size, translate strategically? Well, this is what I believe it does. It will challenge us to meet even our current level of commitments to our allies and partners around the world. It will eliminate our capability on any scale to conduct simultaneous operations, specifically deterring in one region while defeating in another. Essentially, for ground forces, future sequestration even puts into question our ability to conduct one prolonged, multi-phase combined arms campaign against a determined enemy. We would significantly degrade our capability to shape the security environment and prevent conflict in multiple regions simultaneously. And it puts into question our ability to deter and compel multiple adversaries simultaneously. So ultimately what I'm saying is it limits our strategic flexibility, and it requires us to hope that we can predict the future accurately, something we've never been able to do. So now, more than ever, it's imperative for the Army to aggressively develop new concepts as warfare continues to evolve. We must be able to address the future complex strategic challenges while equally recognizing the current and future fiscal pressures. And as has been talked about earlier here, That's why we have the new Army operating concept, Win in a Complex World. It's our path to discover new concepts, to synchronize, integrate, and lead joint interorganizational and multinational teams. The Army operating concept focuses our efforts to turn concepts into capabilities as we build a future force by focusing on 20 warfighting challenges. The focus assessment of the Army's warfighting challenges identifies what are the first-order capabilities that we're going to need. The Army Equipment Modernization Strategy that applies resources to adapt material in the near term using existing capabilities in new ways, modifying and adapting our abilities and capabilities, and rapidly exploiting new opportunities with innovative concepts to retain overmatch and enhance expeditionary maneuver. The soldier and squad will remain the centerpiece of our formations and the heart of this strategy. The objectives to achieve this strategy are threefold: to enhance the soldier by improving lethality, protection, and situational awareness, and increase the deployability, lethality, mobility, and survivability of our maneuver formations. Enable mission command by investing in the network and agile and expeditionary tactical command posts, and remain prepared for joint combined arms maneuver by providing tailable and scalable forces while increasing efficiency in logistics. We must invest in mobile protected firepower and develop combat vehicles that provide land forces the appropriate combination of mobility, lethality, and protection to defeat our enemy in prepared positions, close with and destroy the enemy through fire and maneuver, and ensure freedom of maneuver and action in close contact with the enemy. We must do all of this while we simultaneously increase our strategic, operational, and tactical mobility to ensure global and regional responsiveness. This equipment must also allow us to provide critical capabilities during forcible and early entry operations. In the mid and far term, we have to reduce the size of our command and control footprint while ensuring constant, reliable, and protected information flow on the move. We must invest in light reconnaissance and security capabilities. We must upgrade the lethality of missiles, interceptors, and sensors. We must integrate directed energy. We must develop a new infantry fighting vehicle and a future tank that has autonomous capabilities. Our Force 2025 maneuvers, the Army's campaign of learning, is our way to analyze and assess these new capabilities, their design, and our doctrine. I believe today we are challenged with maintaining technological overmatch. In a world where technology is proliferating faster than ever before. Therefore, it is imperative that we adapt new technology to warfighting concepts better than anybody else. That's where we will gain our overmatch and our advantage. Our ability to use these technologies in ways that no one else can. Understanding that our leaders and our organizations will be more effective and efficient than those of our adversaries. So not only will we conduct future studies and analysis of warfare and also understand the impacts of emerging technologies, we will also test new concepts as part of joint and multinational teams, conducting multinational exercises, both in Europe and in the United States. We'll use our combat training centers and test centers so we can begin to adapt and evolve interim concepts as we innovate long-term solutions. As we take these important steps, we also must improve readiness today because we remain fully engaged in the world. Today, our total Army, active Guard and Reserve, 140,000 almost, in 140 countries, are deployed now. We can never forget that. We must also break new ground at our training centers by rebuilding combined arms capability in an increasing complex security environment, while we are committed simultaneously on 6 continents. As we focus on the changing nature of war, we know that the causes of conflict remain in the human dimension, where land forces are uniquely suited to deal with complexity. Too often, people think battles can be won through engineering and technological advances. The truth is, while overmatch is important, it's people who win wars. And while the air, space, and maritime and cyber domains are important, warfare is essentially a contest of wills, a human endeavor, fought on land to influence the people who live on land. So we need leaders and soldiers who can operate in the human domain and shape the human dimension of conflict, who are able to navigate the complex challenges and create the conditions needed to achieve sustainable outcomes. And I want to say that again, to achieve sustainable outcomes. So we must optimize our own performance and develop an understanding of the security and socio-economic influence of our friends and our adversaries. This is absolutely essential, whether you're a general or a private. Soldiers need to be better prepared through education and realistic training that includes sustained operations in complex and chaotic situations, to include urban environments. Soldiers and leaders need to understand the cultural, tribal, religious, ideological, and economic drivers at the national and local levels. And they need to have the situational understanding that our enemies and adversaries may already have. So looking to the future, we must develop leaders who are mentally and physically tough, innovative and adaptive, able to inspire others to accomplish the unthinkable, and most importantly, leaders of great character. They must be able to think in complex, multi-domain environments. They must be culturally aware and understand that populations where they operate. And they must be able to create multiple dilemmas for our enemies and feel comfortable in operating in that environment. And they must be able to integrate in synchronizing effects from all domains, air, land, sea, space, and cyberspace on the ground, in order to achieve sustainable outcomes. Despite the challenges and uncertainties we face, one thing that remains constant is our soldiers and our leaders' commitment. Never before has America asked so much over such a sustained period. But our soldiers have never disappointed. They have delivered time after time in a decisive and professional manner. And today, as I go around all around the world, whether it's in Korea, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Hawaii, whether it's in Japan, whether it's at Fort Hood, Fort Carson, Fort Lewis, Fort Bragg, pick your installation. Our soldiers are dedicated and motivated. They are proud of what they're doing. They are proud of who they represent. And they are willing to do whatever we ask them to do. But it's incumbent on us that we provide them the training and resources so they are able to do the things we ask them to do. Because we will continue to ask them to do many difficult things today and tomorrow. So we must provide them the capability, the tools, in order for them to accomplish any mission that we give them, home and abroad. So today I challenge everyone here to carry forward this message. Our soldiers, our men and women are making a difference. They selflessly do whatever it takes and are willing to deploy anywhere in the world to defend this nation and defend our way of life, no matter what the crisis may be. They are and forever will be our nation's trusted professionals. The strength of our nation is our Army. The strength of our Army is our soldiers. The strength of our soldiers is our families, and that's what makes us Army strong. Thank you very much for allowing me to talk to you this afternoon.